Chapter 871, You Still Want to Act. Since you can't seem to let go of it, why are you forcing yourself to give up on your identity as an actress? Moting said as he flipped through the summarized script. I know you still want to act, but I have a better candidate in mind. I want Sinyan to take the role, Tangning replied. Sci-fi films contain a lot of action scenes, so I think her rate of completion will be a lot better than mine. But I want to see you act more, Moting said with seriousness as he looked at Tangning. Even if you want it, there's nothing I can do, Tangning said with a deeper meaning. She then looked down at her stomach. I could force myself, but the little one in my stomach won't allow it. Huh? Moting froze in shock, not quite understanding what she had just said. Although it's not 100% confirmed yet, my stomach feels the same as when I was carrying the two rascals. Plus, I haven't had my period for 2 months now. Tangning smiled. It's been a busy couple of days. I was waiting for some downtime to visit the hospital with you for an examination. Mr. Mo, would you be willing to go with me? I know you were very strict with contraception because you didn't want me to suffer again, but accidents can always happen. Moting walked over to Tangning and lifted her off the sofa. Without wasting any time, he headed straight for the door. Let's go now. Hey, if we don't make proper arrangements first, we may end up causing a commotion, Tangning quickly rejected. If my daughter wants to come to this world, why can't she cause a commotion? I don't care. How do you know it's going to be a daughter? Tangning asked as she hooked her arms around his neck. I can feel it, Moting replied before he carried her to the car and placed her in the passenger's seat. However, he did not rush to start the car. Instead, he leaned over and said apologetically, I promised I wouldn't let you suffer the pain of pregnancy again. But I'm more than willing to give birth to another little angel for you, Tangning replied. She is going to be a cheerful little girl that knows how to fight for your affection with her cute tricks. Moting reached out his hand and gently touched the ends of Tangning's hair before he placed a kiss on her forehead. You seem to always present me with miracles. Before meeting you, I never imagined that I'd have such happy marriage, a wife that I deeply love and 3 adorable children. And now, you have all of it. Tangning held onto Moting's hand and rubbed her cheek against the back of it. Let's go, we should head for the hospital. Tangning had been occupied with Lu Woshing's matter over the past few days. Under normal circumstances, she would have already done her examination. But, because Lu Woshing's matter had not been resolved, her mind couldn't seem to focus. Soon, the couple arrived at the hospital. On the way there, Moting had already called Lu Che to make arrangements. So, the hospital at this moment was relatively quiet. Lu Che waited for the couple to arrive, not quite sure of the situation. As he watched Moting carry Tangning into the hospital, he immediately asked, What's wrong with the madam? Moting did not answer Lu Che's question, he simply instructed, Wait outside. Tangning entered the obstetrics and gynecology ward and underwent a series of tests. In the end, the couple received news that Tangning was already 7 weeks pregnant and that her pregnancy was doing well. Although it wasn't their first time being parents, the feeling this time was different to when Tangning carried the twins, because both Moting and Tangning could sense that their child was going to be a girl. Just the thought of the little creature crawling around on his lap made Moting's handsome face soften. At the same time, Tangning felt like she had made a new love rival as well as a little helper. As a child, my life was quite tough and I did not receive much love. From now on, I will definitely shower my daughter with love. I can help her tie her hair and I can teach her how to be in a relationship. But, I definitely won't give you to her. Moting hugged Tangning tightly and the couple remained silent for quite some time. You're not going to object to my suggestion of making Shanglan the female lead anymore, right? Tangning held back a smile. The new film was called A Purgatory, a sci-fi blockbuster that would be filled with suspense and multiple fight scenes. According to Tangning's current condition, this would definitely be too much for her, especially since the female lead was the main protagonist in the entire film. Don't tire yourself too much. Let's keep this pregnancy low-key. Don't tell anyone about it for now. I don't want to make a huge fuss. You're the boss, Moting said gently with a nod. After the couple were done at the hospital, Moting carried Tangning out. However, he did not give Lu Che an explanation. Of course, Lu Che wasn't stupid, he could roughly guess what was going on. But, He was aware that this was Mo Ting's private matter, so he knew he couldn't go around talking about it. After returning home, Mo Ting placed Tang Ning onto their bed and rubbed his warm hands across her heated body. Of course, he couldn't feel a thing because his mind was elsewhere. I have no way of telling you how much I love you. All I can say is that I will become a great father for our three rascals. Yes, I know, Tang Ning nodded. I know that your love for me is ever growing because I feel the same way. Deeply loving someone meant taking the other person into consideration when doing things and not just thinking of oneself. Ting, I am about to become a mother again. As Tang Ning was pregnant, Mo Ting obediently followed Tang Ning's suggestion and passed the script to Chen Xinyan. He then met with An Zihao and briefly explained what Tang Ning was currently working on. An Zihao was stunned by the news. He knew that Tang Ning had invited Qiao Xin back to Beijing, but he didn't know that she was planning to film a top-quality sci-fi on the national level. Everyone knew how difficult this was. An Zihao also knew that post-production had to be truly skillful. Okay, I'll bring Shenglan to see Qiao Xin when the time is right. Actually, An Zihao wasn't that confident about taking on a film like this. After all, Chen Xinyan wasn't a big shot, but she had a considerable amount of fame. What if partaking in this film changed the way that people judged her? The thought of a high-quality sci-fi film didn't seem very promising. Yet, he particularly trusted Tang Ning. After Chen Xinyan heard about the film, she straightforwardly responded, "Accept it." I don't understand why you are so pessimistic. I think this is a great opportunity. Look, Qiao Xin is obsessed with sci-fi films and Ningji is an extremely serious person. How bad could their collaboration be? This is like a gift from God. Think about it. If they actually succeed, my status is going to skyrocket. After hearing this, An Zihao analyzed the situation and realized that Chen Xinyan was right. Great, you've successfully convinced me. But, you need to know that working on this film will be very tough. No matter how tough it is, it won't be as bad as when I was a stunt double, right? Don't worry. Do you think something like this would worry me? Chen Xinyan asked in an unfazed manner. It actually sounds quite exciting. But, I have a question. Why isn't Ningji taking the role herself? This was also a question that An Zihao wanted to ask. Perhaps she hasn't recovered from the incident with Zhu Zhen, or perhaps she has other plans. Don't make random speculations. By the way, it's still going to be difficult to get past the director. Chen Xinyan looked at An Zihao and scoffed. Although I can't pull off every character like Ningji can, at least I'm hardworking and dedicated. Chapter 872, I don't think my feelings are one-sided. As expected, Qiao Xin ended up rejecting Chen Xinyan. He had already seen all the information about Chen Xinyan that Tang Ning had given him, but he felt that she was too young and wasn't suited to their film. Even when An Zihao and Chen Xinyan appeared outside his office door, Qiao Xin still said the same thing to Tang Ning. I still feel you are the most suitable. Why don't you recommend someone else to me? Based on your current performance, I'm not very satisfied. You should give Xinyan a chance to audition, Tang Ning requested. I originally agreed to a fresh start because I was moved by your acting. Qiao Xin was persistent. I honestly don't think she's suitable. I've always known that director Qiao Xin is extremely strict. After today's experience, I've realized that you are indeed far from average, An Zihao said after realizing that Tang Ning hadn't made any progress. Tell me what she's lacking and we can transform her into a suitable actress. Qiao Xin glanced at Tang Ning before he turned back to look at An Zihao. I'm sorry, but I can't let an actress that still requires training to partake in my film. I just can't. So, before we decide on an actress, I'm going to go home and wait for you to find someone suitable before I return. After speaking, Qiao Xin left the office without giving Chen Xinyan the slightest chance. But, Chen Xinyan and An Zihao weren't angry as they turned to Tang Ning and shrugged their shoulders. I guess, you're destined to take the role. But, I honestly can't do it. Tang Ning shook her head helplessly. Is it because of Zhu Zhen? It's because I'm pregnant again, Tang Ning said as she pointed to her stomach. Then I guess there's no way around it. An Zihao laughed. However, I have a suggestion that I don't think Director Qian will reject. Why don't we get President Mo to take the role? I've read through the script. Although it is originally a female role, Men ultimately run the world. Previously, when you were an actress, President Mo supported you behind the scene as an aunt. So, why can't the two of you swap roles this time? It's still considered as a mutual benefit. Zhao has said a lot today, but these last words were the most realistic. Chen Zinian agreed with Zhao's suggestion. Everyone has witnessed both of you act. I'm sure director Kiaosen won't reject this. Tang Ning took a deep breath and was suddenly put in a difficult position. After returning home, she explained Zhao's idea to Mo Ting, but she didn't want Mo Ting to work so hard. He already had enough on his table with Hairu and taking care of the kids. How was he to have enough energy for acting as well? Mo Ting did not say a word, but it was clear what he was thinking. Actually, Tang Ning said emotionally, I want you to be a part of my creation, just like how your creation involved my efforts. Okay, that's all I needed to hear, Mo Ting replied. But, don't think about it too much, get some rest, Mo Ting said, unless you have a better idea. Tang Ning clearly knew that there wasn't. I can play the role of a superhero. When the kids grow up and understand things, they will be proud of their father. For some reason, Tang Ning felt that Mo Ting had softened a lot after becoming a father. Plus, he had made a lot of sacrifices for her and their kids. Afterwards, Tang Ning called Kiaosen to tell him about this. Kiaosen was quite surprised to hear that Mo Ting could act. But, Tang Ning did not say anything. She simply showed him the drama they had previously acted in. After Kiaosen watched it, he returned Tang Ning's phone call. It's set. Mo Ting was going to star in Purgatory. Long Ji and Lin Qian were also shocked by this news. They had all expected Tang Ning to take the role. But in the end, the result turned out this way. Was Mo Ting planning to pursue this path from now on? No, he wasn't. Tang Ning gave instructions at Superstar Media to focus on Mo Wuxing's recovery and told Long Ji to take good care of him. As for Lin Qian, Xia Hanmu was about to return and she needed someone by her side. Tang Ning also told the two women that if they discovered any new artists, they should hold off signing them and give them help and support instead. Are you focusing on behind-the-scenes work from now on? Long Ji asked. Yes, I'm going to place all my focus on that, Tang Ning nodded. Good. Although I don't understand it, I support your every decision. Me too. Lin Qian raised her hand. Seeing Lin Qian's delayed reaction, Long Ji couldn't help but laugh. I heard from Xinglan that someone has been going on blind dates. It was to help the police with their investigation. Lin Qian rolled her eyes. Did the investigation involve going to someone's house and helping them with their cleaning and cooking? I don't know how to explain myself. Lin Qian wanted to cry. Her innocence had been completely ruined by Xinglan's big mouth. That's why one should not make friends recklessly. I heard that the man is from the military. They are usually good in that aspect. Lin Qian's face burned red. Long Ji, you're too dirty-minded. The three women continued to chat in the office until Mo Ting arrived downstairs in his car. As soon as Long Ji spotted him, she was a little surprised. Boss specifically came to pick you up? Isn't this something that he does often? What's so strange about it? The strange thing is the time, Long Ji replied as she shook her head. Tang Ning smiled without giving an explanation as she left the office holding her handbag. Long Ji was a little confused as she looked at Lin Qian questioningly. Isn't she a bit abnormal? Lin Qian glared at her and stood up with her handbag. She didn't want to talk to the sturdy-minded woman, but, when Lin Qian reached downstairs, she spotted Li Jin's tall and built figure waiting for her. How did you find this place? I drove you here last time, Li Jin replied with his usual coldness. He practically had no expression. Let's go. Where are we going? Lin Qian asked. This time, she wasn't about to let him randomly abduct her. To eat. I need to go home, Lin Qian said before she headed towards the other exit. But, Li Jin pulled her towards him and pushed her into his car. I don't like it when people disobey my orders. I'm not your subordinate and I'm not that familiar with you, Mr. Li, Lin Qian yelled angrily. But, you knew I was the person that you were supposed to be match made with, yet you didn't avoid me. Doesn't that mean you wanted to take things further? Did I make a mistake? Li Jin asked straightforwardly. Lin Qian froze as her face turned even more red. That's all a misunderstanding. I've been analyzing you. I don't think my feelings are one-sided. Chapter 873. It appears to be related to the Kwon family. I feel like you have the wrong impression of me. I'm not the kind of woman that enjoys ambiguity. Lin Ki-on cut in. Lee Jin calmed down. As he drove, he peered out the car window. After Lin Ki-on regained her composure, Lee Jin finally said, I haven't had much time to pursue women. Hearing this, Lin Ki-on was a little surprised as a look of helplessness appeared between her furrowed brows. You are a hero in most people's eyes. But, all women are petty. It's not easy to be forgiving. I will try my best to find time to understand you. Lee Jin's words were obviously cold, but for some reason, Lin Ki-on actually felt a sense of warmth. I'm the type of person that accepts reason, not force. Don't do things that I hate, Lin Ki-on warned. So, are you saying that you don't hate me at the moment? Lin Ki-on lowered her head without a word. She was going to go with the flow. After all, Lee Jin was busy and probably wouldn't have time to appear in front of her anyway, so this wasn't such a bad thing. My heart is hard to get through. If you are in a rush to get married or if you expect me to be all over you like other women, I won't be able to do that. Lin Ki-on did not look at Lee Jin and Lee Jin did not reply. The car remained silent until the two of them pulled up at the restaurant. You are indeed what I expected. I hate women that are annoying, and you are not annoying at all. This man was so straightforward. He even treated the relationship between a man and a woman like it was some kind of national mission. Was he really that patriotic? So, give me an answer. Do you want to continue moving forward? Lin Ki-on did not give an immediate response as she opened the car door, stepped out and walked ahead. The two entered the restaurant one after the other. Only after sitting down did she finally reply, give me some time. After all, we only met a few days ago. Okay, but don't take too long. Lin Ki-on didn't like men like Kwon Sai, who gave off an evil vibe and were filled with instability, but she probably didn't like someone like Lee Jin either, who wasn't flexible with his decisions and was strict with everything he did, right? He was too cold and domineering. The two ended up having a very quiet meal. Lin Ki-on was originally a little awkward around Lee Jin, but Lee Jin said to her in an extremely natural manner, just be yourself. Nothing is taboo around me. With these words, Lin Ki-on immediately relaxed. But, a moment later, she received a phone call from Shenglan. Lin Ki-on, hurry home. There's a lawyer here for you. Lawyer? Lin Ki-on furrowed her brows. I don't know any lawyers. It appears to be related to the Kwon family. Lin Ki-on was a little surprised, but she ended up nodding her head. I'll be back very soon. Let's go. I'll take you home. Lee Jin heard what Lin Ki-on said and immediately stood up. It didn't take long before Lee Jin delivered Lin Ki-on back to Shenglan's home. Originally, he wanted to say he'd see her later, but Lin Ki-on rushed into the apartment without looking back before he could even say a word. This girl was quite cool. Miss Lin, how are you? I am Mrs. Kwon's lawyer, Yang Bai. Lin Ki-on stepped into the living room and politely shook the lawyer's hands. Speak, what does Mrs. Kwon want? These are your expenses over the years that you spent in the Kwon family. Mrs. Kwon wants you to pay it all back. After all, you are in the entertainment industry now and this amount isn't much to you. Interesting. Shenglan was disgusted by what she heard. This is the first time I've heard of adoptive parents forcing their children to pay them back. Over the years, the Kwon family have provided you with a stress-free life filled with sufficient food and shelter, yet you ungratefully hurt their only son. That's why Mrs. Kwon has decided to do this. Let me have a look. Lin Ki-on received the list of expenses and quickly ran her eyes across it. $30 million? That's enough to support 10 of me. If Miss Lin has any questions about the amount, you are welcome to make an appeal. But, Mrs. Kwon will continue to seek justice via the law, the lawyer said arrogantly. This Kwon family is disgusting, Shenglan sneered. If I return this money, will the Kwon family and I go our separate ways from now on? Lin Ki-on asked as she waved the list in her hands. In theory, yes. You're not that stupid to give them the money, right? This is not a small amount. Where are you to find this money in such a short period of time? Shenglan asked worriedly. Mrs. Kwon said she'd give you time to find the money. You have 1 week. I'm sure I've delivered my message loud and clear. I will now make my leave. Goodbye, Miss Lin. After speaking, The lawyer left the apartment in an indifferent manner. This Kwon family is so strange. I've never seen parents that are so shameless. This is what I owe the Kwon family. It's only right for me to pay them back, Lin Ki-on replied. I'm afraid, in your heart, the only person you owe is Kwon Sai. Lin Ki-on did not reply. She simply pulled out her bank card and went to check her account balance. For a manager like her, she wouldn't be able to save up $30 million in 3 years, let alone 1 week. It seemed, Mother Kwon was trying to get revenge for her son with this unreasonable demand. Why don't you speak to Ningji about this? Ningji has practically spent all her savings on filming Purgatory. I don't want to cause trouble for her at a time like this. Let me think of an idea. If you can't get the money, the Kwon family is going to sue you. I refuse to believe that they can win a case like this. Lin Ki-on laughed. It's fine. Just focus on your competition. I really want to swear. She's much too shameless. Lin Ki-on did not say a word as she lowered her head and walked into her bedroom. Meanwhile, Xinglan stared at her back and sighed. For some reason, at a time like this, she especially wished that Lin Ki-on had a man by her side. Any man, as long as it wasn't Kwon Sai. Kwon Sai could never provide Lin Ki-on with happiness because, apart from his personality, there was also his annoying family. Based on the fact that he had been stuck between them for so many years, meant that he couldn't sacrifice one for the other. If Lin Ki-on had previously agreed to be with Kwon Sai, it wouldn't be hard to imagine how difficult her life would be now. Xinglan thought quietly for a moment and finally decided to give Li Jin a phone call, even though she knew she shouldn't take the matter into her own hands. Li Jin speaking. Xinglan was a little nervous to hear Li Jin's cold and deep voice. It's Li Jin. What's the matter? Xinglan hesitated for a moment and finally decided to explain the entire situation to Li Jin. So, that's what happened. When Lin Ki-on's adoptive parents took her in as a child, they never mentioned that they'd ever expect her to pay them back. Yet, they are now chasing her for $30 million. She's just a manager. How can she get that much money? I see. With one simple response, Li Jin hung up the phone before Xinglan could continue speaking. Chapter 874, Pay Back What You Owe. Xinglan was a little surprised. She suddenly felt like she had spoken to the wrong person. But, what was actually happening on Li Jin's side? He had immediately contacted a friend that understood the law and asked if Lin Ki-on was legally obligated to pay back the money. The response he got was, of course not. If she gives it to them, then she must be stupid. Li Jin understood that the real reason why Lin Ki-on wanted to pay the Kwon family back was because she wanted to break all ties with them. But, the amount was much too big. Of course, this was a matter outside of the entertainment industry and news of it had not started spreading. So, under restrictions from Moting, Tangning used the rest of her time to prepare for her film. During this time, plenty of films were screened at the theaters, but not a single one left a deep impression on the audience. This was because the standards of the audience had grown and they were no longer simply sold on good looks. At this time, a member of the public was bored and decided to write out a list of artists that had great acting, but had unfortunately retreated from the industry. He then asked the public to vote for the one they wanted to see return the most. After 3 days of voting, sitting at the top of rankings, was Tangning's name. Looking at all her films, the audience could definitely tell whether she could act or not. The number of actors that can act are becoming more and more scarce. Out of all the recent newcomers, Luo Xing is the only one that is worth noting. But, even when we consider actors that can act, their acting style is too one-dimensional. The only truly versatile actor in recent days is Tangning. It's a shame that Tangning's not acting anymore. I don't understand why everyone forced her to retreat over an artist that committed suicide. Tangning may have become a manager that's managing a few good artists, but Tangning can return to being the Tangning we know in less than a day. Whereas waiting for someone else to become like Tangning could possibly take a decade. Now that I think about it, it's such a shame. Because of this, I decided to vote for her. I hope she can return. This particular post attracted quite a commotion, because, by the time the public moved on from what had happened in the past and remembered Tangning's good points, she had already decided not to act again. purgatory progressed at a quick pace. Apart from getting normal amounts of rest, Tangning either spent most of her time discussing the special effects with her production team or keeping her kids company at home. This kind of lifestyle was very enriching for her. But, due to the appearance of this particular post, Tangning's name was suddenly mentioned a lot more often. So, the official website of Survivor took this opportunity to announce that they would start screening their film soon. The director was smart. He knew how to take advantage of the situation. He would never forget how difficult it was to produce this film and how much humiliation he suffered when he bought the copyright. As soon as this news was released, many people cheered in excitement, especially film fans. Survivor was based on a true story. Although the original production team had changed, Tangning was still the protagonist. It had been a while since anyone talked about this film, but the public's excitement was easily reignited like it had been released from its temporary storage. The market was currently flooded with low-quality films, so the arrival of Survivor was good news for film fans. By now, Tangning had perhaps already forgotten that she participated in this film. The day after their official announcement, the director personally began promoting the film. He had to do it himself because he knew it was practically impossible to invite Tangning. The production of Survivor had its fair share of obstacles. Luckily, it can finally show itself to the public. The first person I would like to thank is Tangning. Filming was difficult, but she remained professional and completed the film without being affected. She truly moved me. This was Tangning's 5th film. I'm not sure if it will be her last, but I hope it won't be. I understand how easy it is for an actor to be forgotten in this industry. You are welcome to forget Tangning if you want to, but don't forget her goosebump-inducing acting. Survivor is looking forward to meeting everyone. So, we'll see you next week. The director skillfully mentioned Tangning because he knew this was the best way of promoting the film. Although Tangning was no longer an actress, she had now become the boss of Superstar Media, as well as a manager. All this time, her popularity did not decrease, so she needed to make good use of this fact. The least she could do was draw everyone's attention towards Survivor and make them realize the film's sincerity. Since the director no longer had a team to work with, he had to shoulder everything on his own. In the end, he decided to place a 30-second trailer of Survivor online. As soon as he released it, the views soared quickly to 10 million. Fact: Tangning's acting honestly gives me goosebumps. The trailer looks so good. I'm really looking forward to it. It's a bit scary because it's actually based on a true story. If this film does well at the box office, those that once gave up on it are going to collapse in tears of shock. Thank you for keeping the film alive. Of course, since the film was one of Tangning's projects, Hairui did not sit around doing nothing. Instead, Fang Yu immediately gathered together a team and took over the promotional work. He then distributed the film to all the biggest theaters and asked them to screen it. People had to think about the situation properly. There was a possibility that this would be Tangning's last film. So, the theaters weren't stupid. They knew it may become a huge hit, so no one dared to prevent it from screening or play any other tricks on it again. Hearing this, Tangning could only sigh. She once thought that the film would sink to the bottom of the ocean, never to face the light of day again. She never imagined that it would make a comeback. Meanwhile, Lin Keon had already reached the 4th day of her debt. Even when she exhausted all her efforts, she only managed to secure a few $1,000,000. As she witnessed Lin Keon's pitiful state, Xinglan felt her heart fill with anger. Was it necessary for the Kwon family to push someone into a dead end? Lin Keon was out of ideas. She had no idea what to do. But, at this time, she received a phone call from Li Jin. "Come out." "I'm downstairs." "But, I'm busy." "Give me 2 hours." Li Jin insisted. Lin Keon assumed that Li Jin didn't know about the situation she was in. Otherwise, why would it take him 4 days to give a response? So, since she was currently in debt, she did not want to implicate him. As a result, Lin Keon headed downstairs with the intention to reject Li Jin. But, to her surprise, Li Jin wasn't dressed in military uniform today. Instead, he was wearing a black suit. "Get in the car." "Where are we going?" Lin Keon asked. "You'll know when we get there," Li Jin said before he started the car. However, it didn't take long before Lin Keon began to notice the road was quite familiar. "I'm sorry. I felt like I should visit your parents." "No, you can't. You don't know. I know, Lee Jin cut in. You should go pay back what you owe. Chapter 876, Show everyone what it means to be a best actress. If I ever hear the Kwon family mention Lin Ki-on again, you will no longer be welcome here in Beijing. After he was done talking, Li Jin did not want to stay another second as he turned and asked Lin Ki-on, "Do you have anything else you want to say?" Lin Ki-on glanced at Mother Kwon and shook her head. "No, let's go then." After speaking, Li Jin stood up and offered his hand to Lin Ki-on. Lin Ki-on was a little surprised, but she quickly accepted. Just as the two turned to leave, Mother Kwon no longer held back her anger as she yelled towards Li Jin, "I think you should reconsider your decision to be with Lin Ki-on. After all, a person that would seduce even her own brother is quite cheap. But, as I'm aware, your son is the one that's been endlessly pursuing Ki-on. Li Jin replied calmly before he wrapped his arm around Lin Ki-on's waist and led her out of the villa. Mother Kwon was so angry that her chest heaved repetitively. However, there was nothing she could do. Who told Li Jin to be a major general? The Kwon family were rich, but they did not have the courage to provoke those with power. Unless, of course, they no longer wanted to stay in Beijing like Li Jin had warned. But, how was she to accept that Lin Ki-on had found such a great source of support? Although Li Jin's method was something that pretentious men often did, women liked it, and Lin Ki-on was no different. Lin Ki-on continued to lean against Li Jin affectionately, and Li Jin did not remove his arm from around her waist. At this time, Kwon Zai's car drove into the property and stopped in front of them. As soon as Kwon Zai stepped out and saw the two, he was a little surprised. But, his expression quickly turned helpless. "You're set on your decision to leave the Kwon family?" "Yes," Lin Ki-on nodded. "I've been disgusted by them for a long time." "Are you disgusted by me too?" Lin Ki-on did not answer Kwon Zai's question. Instead, Li Jin answered on her behalf. Ki-on should be disgusted by you. You haven't been able to protect her all these years." After speaking, Li Jin led Lin Ki-on away. As soon as they boarded Li Jin's car, they no longer had anything to do with the Kwon family. "Thank you," Lin Ki-on said. "I have something I need to do. I'll send you home first." "I didn't break my promise of 2 hours." Li Jin's expression was cold. He did not waste any time on sweet talk, nor did he have the ability to. Lin Ki-on nodded her head. From the moment she entered the Kwon family home to the moment that she left, she had experienced a complex array of emotions. Right now, all she wanted to do was calm down. "I will be at the military base over the next 3 days. How will I contact you?" Lin Ki-on asked. "You don't need to. When I'm done, I will naturally be back." After speaking, Li Jin dropped Lin Ki-on off at her home and drove away, quickly disappearing from sight. Deep down, Lin Ki-on actually wanted to remind him to take care of his injury because he had previously been shot. Lin Ki-on couldn't explain why, but as soon as Li Jin left, she felt like her sense of security had completely disappeared. Was it because Li Jin was in the military, so she subconsciously trusted him and relied on him? They had only known each other for a short period of time. If this was true, Li Jin was much too frightening. Inside the Kwon family home, as soon as Kwon Zai returned home, Mother Kwon immediately approached. "When did Lin Ki-on get involved with someone with such a strong background?" "Weren't you aware of it at all?" "That's her choice," Kwon Zai replied as he headed for his bedroom. "That general threatened your mother. He said that if I mention Lin Ki-on's name again, I will no longer be welcome in Beijing." Kwon Zai finally realized, after all these years, the reason why he couldn't protect Lin Ki-on was because he had never faced the situation with this attitude. But, Li Jin could. "That's great." After speaking, Kwon Zai entered his room and closed the door. Everything finally fell silent. It was also finally time for Lin Ki-on's name to disappear from his world. After returning home, Lin Ki-on told Xinglan about how Li Jin helped her resolve the $30 million incident. Xinglan listened in shock. She couldn't believe her ears. Was this really her hermit cousin that Lin Ki-on was talking about? "He's not bad, he's capable of so many things. Why is my uncle worried that he won't find a wife?" "How would I know?" Lin Ki-on shrugged. "But, with all the favors he's done for me, as well as the $3 million he helped me pay, I'm not sure how I'm supposed to make it up to him." "You can make up for it with your body," Xinglan laughed. "By the way, don't forget that Zai Hanmo is returning today and Ningji asked you to pick her up from the airport." "Oh God, I almost forgot. Lin Keong quickly stood up, grabbed a few necessary items and left the apartment. Meanwhile, thanks to publicity created by Hyrule, Survivor grew in popularity and became the most anticipated film. But, Moting did not stop here. Considering that there was still a bit of time left until the release date, he decided to help Xinglan out a little. He found someone to write a meaningful song and gave it to Xinglan to perform. This song was the theme song of Survivor. After receiving this news, Xinglan went crazy with excitement. After all, to have her name appear in the same film as Tangning was something to be sincerely proud of. So, after receiving her song, Xinglan immediately went to the recording studio. She couldn't help with other things, so creating the best sounding theme song was the best way to show Tangning her gratitude. This time, there was no one around to swipe points off her, no one around to compete with her and no one around to prevent the film from being distributed. In fact, fans did not complain nor show doubt. Everything seemed to run so smoothly. But, Tangning was nowhere to be seen. The director put all his effort into promoting Survivor and the fans were sincerely interested in the film. But, Tangning spent this time tackling special effects problems with her team. 2 days before the release date, the director contacted Tangning via Moting. I know that the industry has brought you a lot of pain and you were misunderstood by a lot of people at one point. But, for the sake of your last film, can you attend the premiere as an actress? Show everyone what it means to be a best actress and come enjoy the defeated looks of those that once insulted you. Tangning did not say a word. Don't reject me too quickly. I will leave a seat for you and look forward to seeing you there. Tangning remained silent and did not agree to anything. She did not think it was necessary. Wasn't she still contributing to the film industry? There were some things that once meant a lot to her, but now, she'd rather spend her time on studying special effects. That way, after Survivor made its appearance, the public would have an even more amazing film to look forward to, a film called Purgatory.
Hit the like, thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for listening.